Okay, so in the previous tutorial we have seen like how we can drop the equipped item. So currently like it's just spawning pickable item base in random location plus the corresponding inventory and weapon system is being cleared. Right, so now instead of spawning these sort of random elements, let's spawn the exact element that we want to spawn. Right, for example, like since I picked the sword and rifle instances, soon after I drop those elements, what should spawn is basically the sword pickable item and rifle pickable item. Right, okay, so the solution is quite simple. So since we add sort of a BPC inventory item helper for weapon based instance, now we can open up the necessary child instances and we can override that variable, right? So here basically let's first add the pickable item for pistol. So it should be pickable item pistol, and let's go to rifle and do the same thing. And finally let's go for the melee weapons and go to sword, and let's add sword instance here as well. Plus I think I can get rid of this pickable item base from the weapon base class, because I don't need to spawn with the in any case it's pickable item base, right? So since we remove this element from here, I think it's better to go inside our inventory system, and here let's first check whether this is a valid class. So if it is only a valid class, we can perform this spawning. Otherwise we don't need to actually concern this spawning, right? Okay, now if I play test it, and maybe let's equip multiple weapons. Maybe I'll equip 3 of them, and if I try to drop the element, you can see actually the exact same pickable item that we require is being appeared on the ground, right? Basically it's not appeared on the ground yet, but it's spawning on some random location within the air, right? But ideally now we can equip these items and drop it again, and equip again, drop it again. See, it's just work seamlessly. Right. Okay. Yes. Right. Now, that part is done. Now we have to figure out this location, right? So instead of spawning it within some random point in bounding box, let's trace for the ground and spawn it on the ground itself, right? So it would be a much more convenient solution. So in order to do that, actually I will create a utility function called trace for ground, because that ground tracing logic we can reuse in multiple different places later on, right? Therefore having such reusable function would be nice, right? So let's go to the blueprints and let's create our first blueprint function library. Okay? So I'll create a folder called blueprint function libraries, and let's go inside of it. And let's create a blueprint function library there. So I'll name it as BFL uh, yeah, utilities. Right. So blueprint function library is sort of like a collective global function that you can define globally, and you can reuse the function at any actor instance itself. Right. Actually, it's not only restricted for the actor instances. It can be any sort of uh, instance that you have within this engine, right? Within your project. Right. So in our scenario, we just need the function to trace foreground. So I'll create a new function called trace foreground. Right. So let's make it as maybe pure function, because we just need to get an location out of this function, right? We are not actually modifying any sort of variable within this function itself. But as input, we have to give the start location to start our tracing. It should be a vector, and we need the C depth, which means actually I'm going to perform a line trace from top to bottom. So I need to actually determine what sort of a C depth that I have, right? Sort of like a height. So this should be a float. And for the output, we need the end location, which is ideally ground location. Okay, now let's perform line trace for channel. Maybe channel could be visibility channel, and as the start location, let add this start location, and as the end location, okay, actually since we have the C depth, let's add an offset based on the C depth and then add it to the start location. So it will be a bit higher than the requested start location that we want. And similarly, we need a subtracted location from the C depth as the end location. Right. And plus, I think this C depth should only affect for the C axis. But if I plug it like this, it will affect for both X and Y and Z, which is not what I want. So I will simply unplug this thing and let's make a vector out of it. And let's plug the C to it. And similarly, let's do the same thing for this pin as well. So in that fashion, I keep the X and Y as it is, but I'm only manipulating the C axis. Right. And then we can simply check whether this is a valid blocking hit or not by using this out hit hit results. And if it is a valid hit, then we can simply return its hit location, which is this one. Plus, for safe side, just to determine whether we found a valid hit or not, let's return this blocking hit as well. And I'll call it as maybe valid location for. Right. So now I think we can use this function as a global function at our EPC inventory system. Right. So here, tracing for random point is fine because we need some point within the range of the owner, which is great. But maybe this half size. Do we have? No, we only have this thing. Let's make a vector out of this thing, and let's promote this to a variable called inventory item drop range, and I'll make it a global variable and add it to setup category. And by default, let's give it like with 300 for now. And for both X and Y, I'll use the same thing. Right? And then I can use this location as the start location. Right. And I think we can keep the C as 0. Or maybe we can get the actor C location. So I'll get the actor C, and then we can use this as a start location, right? So just for testing, no, actually let's add the trace for ground function as well. So here you can see like actually how it works. So trace for ground has been applied. And for C depth, for now I will just statically type 1000 as the C radius. And as the end location, let's add it here. But for safe side, let's first check whether we found a valid location or not. So if it is found a valid location, then we can simply return this one. But in case if we haven't found anything, we can return this one, which is the default start location that will be given by this random pointing bounding box. Okay. So just for the debugging purposes, let's go inside this trace follow ground function, and as the draw debug type, I will add for duration, so I can see actually how it works. So as the draw time, I will give maybe like 10 seconds, and let's play test and see how it works. Right, so I can now equip multiple weapons, and let's drop it, and you can see like how this tracing works, right? So I'll play test it again. Okay, so actually it is being spawned multiple traces and find the best possible location to spawn a weapon on ground and return it as the hit location. And then by using that location, we can actually spawn the weapon, right? Actually the pickable item. And let's go within this platform and try to spawn. Okay, still it actually spawning, but at the ground. So I just need to check whether it's work for any surfaces. Maybe let's size it further. Now let's see. Yes, for any surfaces actually it's been appearing properly, which is what we wanted. And you can see actually the traces works fine as well, right? So for instance, like if you reduce this C depth maybe like 400, just see what happens, right? So now actually you can see the C depth is sort of small, and sometimes the hit location may not found properly. So if it is not found properly, it will sort of appear on the ground, appear on the air, because it's the default start location returned by that bounding box, right? So I think for the worst case scenario, we will have this sort of spawn. But even in such a scenario, I think we shouldn't spawn it this much of height. right? Because it seems like it's almost spawning at the air. So in order to get rid of that issue, what we can do is this C value could make as 0. Or we can do is we can add sort of a subtract for here, be like 100. And now let's try to spawn. Okay, now here you can see even if we haven't found the proper location, it's been sort of not spawning on the air. It's like almost close to ground, right? Maybe let's reduce this further and see. No, it's still been appearing on the ground. Let's make it 500. Okay, now it's sort of appearing at the ground, but it's quite overlapping with it, right? Which is not what I wanted. Can I get the capsule half height of it for a moment? So can I get the capsule half height? No, I think since we use this generic owner component, we can't get the capsule half height of the character because it is comes with the character. But I think we don't need to go in that detail. So this should be enough as an IV approach. But I will make it more smaller. So let's have offset like 300 and see how it works. It seems good, but let's make it further down. Now it's been appearing on the air. Yeah, I think let's have the exact same C value because having this offset may cause some issues later, right? So in the worst case scenario, actually we are spawning our weapons on air. Oh, we have another issue, which is sometimes all of these weapons appearing in the same location. Yeah, it happens because of this bounding box. So I think in the worst case scenario, such issues may happen, but ideally it won't happen because since we have a proper C depth if we have a proper C depth on this trace for ground function, actually it will detect the exact location on the ground, right? In case like if the character is like sort of jumping from very high or like maybe like dropping from very high, maybe like mountain sort of area, uh, the weapons or the equipped inventory items will appear on the air. Otherwise it can directly spawn on the ground if we properly set up this trace for ground depth. So I will parameterize this as well and call it inventory item drop C depth. And I'll make it as a variable, a global variable, and give it a C depth like 1000. Right. Plus, I think instead of creating two different variables like this, we can simplify it further to make this one as a vector. So we will have the control of three of these axes. So I will promote it to vector. And everything is renamed. This will broke, that would be fine. So I will make it from here and plug x and y to here and get rid of this one and plug it to here. Compile, and I can get rid of this variable now. Let's configure this one. So here as the drop range I will give 300 by 300, and as the C depth I will give like 1000. So you will have a proper C depth plus the range. Okay. Now if I play test it and try to drop elements, yes, it's been dropped properly and no overlappings, plus everything is appearing on the ground. Yep, so you can see like even if I try these sort of areas, the elements are aligned with the ground properly. Like, so this one is sort of like aligned with the slope angle, and this one is sort of aligned with the floor or ground. And even in height areas like this or platform areas like this, it's the same. Okay, now I think we can get rid of this debug. So I can make it none. Oh, I can actually even parameterize that thing as well. So later on actually we can quickly toggle that one just for see how it works on runtime. So I'll change it to debug, and let's select it from bool as the draw debug type. So if it is true, then the debug type should be for duration, otherwise it should be none. Now here you can see like we have that toggleable option. If I make it true, the traces will appear, and if I make it false, traces won't be appeared anymore. Right. So I think that's all what I needed to cover. So basically now we can properly drop whatever the pickable item that is response to that specific inventory item that we have been picked, plus it's been spawned on the ground at the proper location, right? It's not like spawning on the air, right? So maybe I can comment this function as well, so later on actually it'll be easy to find out what's been appeared. So I'll pause the video for a while and comment everything and explain it briefly. Right, so I just properly commented everything and you can see everything is there. And yeah, so that's how we just how we can drop the inventory items and spawn it properly from the ground. And yeah, I'll see you there. Thank you.